you can hear me? Yeah, everyone. Okay. I see people coming in. All right. Sorry for this. We are arriving a little bit late. Okay. All right. So, very warm welcome to the people who've joined this webinar, the first of its kind for us with the Observia Lab. And to present myself, but I guess some of you might know me. So I'm Sylvain Bonnet. I'm managing director of Observia. So just in a nutshell, for the commercial presentation, Observia, we are a health tech company dedicated to transform health behavior across the globe. So that's our unique selling proposition. And today, indeed, to transform health behavior, we need to understand health behavior. So that's the key point we are trying to decipher today. And we are going to present you with a case study at the center of the discussion, how to build innovative patient strategies with what we call the 2.0 patient journey mapping. So today, everything is going to be centered around the patient journey mapping and how Observia is approaching this. And beyond the approach, some of the key results and what our clients are doing with this. So if you have some questions, do not hesitate also to intervene in the conversation. We'll try to look at the different questions and try to answer them. There will be a few polls in the middle of the talk. So you'll have some questions to answer too. And we are not going to steal too much of your time. So it's a little pick. So we have 15 minutes left. So I'll try to go fast. So first of all, we need to explain a little bit where we come from and the environment, and what we do mean about behavioral and especially everything that is associated to the link between behavior and adherence, and why we are working on this topic. So the first thing, if it works, might work. So most of you guys know this number, 50% on average of chronically ill patients are adhering to their treatment, which means that there's a huge loss of chance to be controlled, managed. It's a huge loss for everyone, the pharma, the payer, and the pharma industry. We are actually building innovative therapies that are actually not used. So it's a huge waste. And this waste is measured within the healthcare system across Europe. When I look at these numbers, I'm always shocked by the amount of the numbers. So this is across Europe, 125 billion euro. This is the loss of the healthcare systems, so mostly from the payer perspective, due to non-adherence, 125 billion euro. Most of this is due, 60% is due to hospitalization that could have been avoided. So it's absolutely a huge number. If we talk about pharma, it's about 5 to 25% of revenue loss each year on adherence. And across Europe, it's been measured by, we are leaving on the table 70 billion euros of value for pharma due to non-adherence. So we're not talking about a small topic. So to work on adherence and to work on patient behavior, we need to understand them. And what we've seen over the last 2 decades, when pharma is interested and wants to know more about the patient, what they do is they do this first part that you see here. Let me get my pointer. They do what they call this medical journey or medical pathway. So they are analyzing the different interfaces between the patients and the healthcare system. And that's pretty much it. So what about what's happening during the diagnostic? What's happening during the consultation? And then the 99.99% of time that the patient is not in front of the healthcare professional, what is happening? And this is actually the crucial part. If we want to really have the right information to be able to play and to act correctly on adherence, we need to understand the rest of the patient journey and to have what we call this holistic vision and to go beyond just the medical journey and the medical touch points, but to add the emotional part and the behavioral part to have this holistic vision, because this is actually where we will be able to know what's really happening. And when we know what's really happening, then we know what to do. We have the right insights for the right strategy, and then from the right strategy to the right tactics to be able to work on this adherence and patient engagement problem as a whole. So now, just a few questions for you. Up, it works. We'll send a poll to understand better the way you are, let's say, integrating this topic into your daily life. Now it's the moment you're happy because I shut up. All right. So now let's go into a concrete business case to really understand what we are talking about and the use of this. So let me give you an example of a project where we actually supported a pharma company to launch, and they were about to launch an oral drug in oncology. We are talking here about breast cancer, HER2+ with an adjuvant. And during the clinical trials and looking also at the studies regarding adherence, they anticipated poor level of adherence regarding the use of their drug, which means for them, two things. Okay, so the medical outcome that we have in clinical trials are not going to happen in real life. So we are going to have a problem. And the other fault of this is, well, we are going to leave a lot of revenues on the table. We are going to fight for prescriptions, and we are not going to get the value out of these prescriptions. So what they decided to do is to launch a study to better understand the different behavioral patterns of patients, okay, and to understand also the importance of this issue, the prevalence of the problem of adherence, and why, so the different archetypes of manifestations around adherence. The key figure of the study, so we worked in 9 different countries. We had 2 phases on the study with a quantitative phase of 1,000, a little bit more than 1,000 patients, and a qualitative phase with 27 patients. And I'll deep dive a little bit into each of the phases. Okay, first the outcome. So not the results of the study, but what has the results allowed our client to do, because this is actually what's the most important one. What it allows to do, it allows for them to have, on the one side, a new perception of the patients, a new way of looking at the patients. So instead of having, you know, a pure traditional segmentation, we have added criteria that were not existing based on our SPUR behavioral profile that allowed us to identify the 5 top behavioral drivers that were influencing the risk of non-adherence. And we were able then to create new segments and a new way of looking at the patients. On the other side, we helped also our client to identify really, let's say, actionable communication tools, meaning somehow they knew where to play. And this in a very concrete fashion. We allowed them also to rethink their brand positioning and to go just beyond the target product profile. but indeed to have a new TPP, so a target patient profile, where they included not only the medical aspects, but indeed everything that was associated to the behavioral aspects. It was also a new way to position the brand and the drug and to communicate towards HCPs. Also, it allows them to understand where was the problem and the biggest problem, where they were about to lose most of the value. So they knew where to allocate the budget and to prioritize that to work on where they needed to work the most. And last but not least, what was very important is also what we call this transversal alignment. And this transversal alignment allowed to share with other departments, marketing, medical, market access, so that they could have a common vision and a common understanding on the patients and the behavioral patterns, so what was actually happening in real world with their drug. And it was very, very valuable, so not to be not considered. We wanted to have the quote of the direct client who's led this study, because this is actually a good quote. And let me just read it. It was the richest patient study I've ever made. With Observia, we moved from assumptions to evidence, because of course we do think that about things, we have hypotheses, but it went to hypothesis to evidence, gaining a clear data-driven understanding of our patients grounded in rigorous behavioral science. So one of the key highlights also of this was data-driven. He has repeated that several times. First time that the patient journey map included behavioral analytics strongly backed by data. So no assumptions anymore, just pure knowledge. Now I wanted to deep dive into one part of the project, which was which tools did we use, which methodologies. So on the one side, we use this anthropological tool, which is called the photo elicitation methodology, that allows us to deep dive into the emotions of the patients. It's called the photo elicitation, where we ask the patients to take pictures of their daily life, what represents the disease for them. And then based on these photos, we are leading the in-depth interviews that you've seen a little bit before, to go deep down into what represents the disease for them. Then based on that, we are also leading semantical analysis to better understand and share with our clients how the patients are talking about their disease. It's a richful way of getting insights. And on top of that, you have a new archetype of data, which is pictures. Then on the top of that, we used our SPUR behavioral profiling model. I will not deep dive into that, but one of the most advanced PRAM, so patient-reported adherence measurement system, which allows to predict the risk of non-adherence, and beyond just the prediction, understand what are the key drivers on 13 different data points that are driving this risk of non-adherence. And then this is also the amount of data that we were able to generate regarding the behavioral patterns that allowed us, the important segmentation that I will present to you. So then, just based on these tools and beyond these tools, what we want to highlight and what was very important for us in this study is to show that we had an agile approach with a strong variety of data. And the strong variety of data regarding patient journey map pushed us with our clients to do a lot of different archetypes of statistical analysis. So we led what we call the first segmentation, which is a linear segmentation, where we wanted to understand the patient just based on their risk of non-adherence. And what it allowed us to do was to create 4 segments of the risk, actually 3 segments of the risk of non-adherence, from the high, medium, and low, and understand the characteristic of these segments. Then in the agile fashion, we discussed with our clients, okay, where do we want to deep dive? Obviously, we wanted to deep dive where they were losing most value. So meaning we pushed on understanding the high risk of non-adherence patients. So we then selected a subsegment which was this high risk of non-adherence. And when we lead a new archetype of statistical analysis, which is called the principal component analysis, which allows to understand what are the key principal drivers of the patients that are in this high risk of non-adherence. And what it allows us to do was actually to identify two different archetypes of drivers, which allowed then a new subsegmentation in the high risk of non-adherence that I will show you right after. So the high risk of non-adherence based on the linear segmentation, we identified 80% of the population were actually high risk. And then in this high risk, we actually lead a subsegment through this principal component analysis. So again, not assumptions, but real statistical robust data that allow us to create two new other segments. And finally, based on this, we added all the different cross information that we had regarding patient preference, social demographic, interactions between healthcare professionals, their medical pathway, to have a final segmentation, added the attitudinal environment to finish with this attitudinal segmentation, which allows us to simplify for our clients the 4 key segments that we have identified in the end that I will show you right now. The key message here for you is just to highlight the fact that, again, the quantitative approach with spur-based model allows really deep diving into the segments and the criteria to be able to really create strong segments. This is a pure consulting slide, so don't bother too much. Don't try to read it. I'll just walk you through. So this is the finalization, of the segments where we identify these 4 key segments that are attitudinal segments based on their risk of non-adherence. To walk you through really briefly, what the numbers that are important is that you can see that in each of the risk, there's a reporting, self-reporting skip doses that is quite different. And from the very high and the 15%, from the very high and the low, you can see that it's 15%. But indeed, the level of the segment is not the same. But what is important in the very high and the high, you have a pure same patient characteristic. But there's one key thing that differentiates them is on the one side, the SWAMP is the financial, and for the struggling, it's not the financial, it's more their trust. So it's very different. And one of the key highlights also that allowed us, this segmentation our clients to do is actually this number. We saw that the patients who were very high and high risk were the ones that didn't have a surgery. The one who had the surgery actually were in the low section. And that was actually also striking. So we can segment based on medical criteria and then adding, these behavioral criteria and risk of non-adherence and identifying some key patterns. And of course, then have an overall recommendation. We went way deep down in the recommendation, but it allowed us to have some overall patient strategy on each segment. What do we want to do with them? Here we need to inform, educate, and provide assistance. Here we just need to inform and educate, and here we just need to empower with light touch. So of course, the report goes way beyond just this, but it gives you some highlight on the power of what we can do in understanding the patients with our different approach and models. Then I want to show you just some examples of deliverables because these studies are very complex and lots of data. And of course, to share this, you need to simplify. So we are creating for them emotional map and care journey. We are creating some holistic patient analysis, including, all the different archetypes of drivers and what's happening just beyond the medical touch points. We have the ability to create these personas and way of explaining the patient in an easy fashion with ID cards. And of course, understanding what's the most important in the end. Where are the moments of truth? Where are the moments where the patients are where the critical moments where the patient has a risk to drop or really needs attention at which point of their, let's say, care journey and overall journey with the disease. So that's it for the example. Of course, we can deep dive and share more, but not in 20 minutes. I still have just a few questions to better understand your environment, more or less related to the way you're familiar and what are the different barriers, and then we can have a short 2 minutes discussion and feedback on the results of this. Okay, so what we do see, let's have indeed a short discussion. Um, we do see that the companies in your organization are mostly mature on the process and the tools, meaning that the organization seems to be interested in the patient journey map, and there is value out of it. But what's also very interesting is that most of this is also associated to internal resistance to change. So to share a little bit our conviction on this, and maybe the internal resistance to change. So whether it's associated to there's no trust in engaging on this patient engagement path, or there's no trust in, let's say, the results of the study, because we've seen clients leading some patient journey mapping approach. And in the end, they said, yeah, but I don't know how to leverage that. I don't know how to use it. And usually it's because it hasn't been fact-based or data-driven. And this is why I'm going back, to this core point is with the Observia approach, we have managed to make it scientifically robust and scientifically acceptable. To understand indeed the importance of this topic. And then when you have the ability to show the importance of this topic to business, currently what we are trying to push, there's value that you're leaving on the table and you need to act on it. And this is how much you're leaving on the table based on strong and robust data. Then usually they choose to act. So somehow this will be my final word, and thank you for your time and your 22 minutes. So we promised 20, you had 22. So of course I'll be very happy to deep dive with some of you guys and to discuss more what we do, the way we do, the value, the actionable, how to actionate, and how to act, sorry, on the insights that such studies are providing. Thank you very much, guys. You're free to go. You can have lunch, and it's been a real pleasure. There's a final question, of course. Sorry for that. Have a great day. Thank you very much for joining. Hello Bénédicte, j'espère que tu vas bien. Hi David, hope you're well.